Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition on What the Heck is Going On in this Not Too Merry Jolly Housing Market. Coming to you live from Plymouth, Massachusetts. I'm Jen Sylvester, here to guide you down this merry trail of housing market carnage. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? So we got some good stuff cooked up tonight that I want to talk to you guys about. I'm going to start off by, digging into an article that I came across that Barbara Corcoran went on record in an interview saying that, and actually was based on a study that was done not too long ago, that 25% that are of home buyers, less than 25% of home buyers are first-time home buyers. The number has gone down significantly, which is really not a good thing for the housing market. We need first-time home buyers to, get into that market, free up those homes by those move-up buyers. Everything's connected, which you're going to see in a few minutes as we kind of dive into this. So I'm just going to check here, make sure that we are good to go. I am super, super stoked to have you guys all in here. We got the chat. We got the poll going. As you guys are logging on, make sure you vote on that poll that I've got. We'll go over the results at the end of the live stream. And we're going to dig right into it because we're going to get into the article. We're going to get into a question that a viewer called in. I've got a hotline here that, actually, let me get my act together here. So if you have a question during the week, you can call this hotline. You can leave your name, where you're calling from, and your question, and I'm going to feature you live on the live stream. Not live, the recording live. You'll see. So we're going to take care of that. So jot that number down if you want to call in for next week's question. I got a couple questions that came in on the last couple weeks' videos that I want to answer live. And then I've got a super, super special announcement that I'm going to actually tease you all about. I'm going to wait for a little bit later into the live stream to make that special announcement. So I'm super stoked. So stick around. Hey Clark, oh Mr. Clark's in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining me as always. So let's dig in. Let's get this show on the road. So came across this article. Barbara Corcoran reveals alarming statistic about housing market. Less than 25% of all homes sold are going to first-time home buyers. At one point in time, the housing market, we were looking at 60% of first-time home buyers buying the homes in a typical housing market. It's continually gone down. Of course, it's related to the affordability issue that this country is experiencing. But this article says, ever since the advent of the 30-year mortgage, buying real estate has been one of the most reliable routes Americans could take to the middle class. Multiple generations of Americans have used the equity in their homes to finance businesses, their child educations, and their retirement. Just as a side note, don't do that. If you are super financial savvy, you understand the dynamics of how to use your home equity properly, and you want to do those things, great. My opinion on, just as a side note, my opinion on home equity, the only things that you should be using your home equity on is to further invest in your home. You put home improvements that increase the value, that helps cover the cost of that home equity, but taking it out to fund a child's education, please don't do that. Unless you really have a good financial advisor that is advising you to do so. On with the article. It says, that's why Shark Tank star and real estate mogul Barbara Corcoran is concerned that less than 25% of homes in America are being sold to first-time homebuyers. Corcoran voiced her concerns during an appearance on Fox's Cavuto Coast to Coast, where she spoke about the difficulties prospective homebuyers face today. Most of those difficulties revolve around cost. That's a huge surprise. According to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, the average sale price for a home in the U.S. for Q3 2024 is $501. Keep in mind that is an average, not a median. There is a difference. I believe the median home price, which takes into consideration number of homes in a given price range, is the. I always go by the median, not the average. The median price is actually right around 425,000. But regardless, that's expensive. It says that 1 million, however, $1 million starter homes are common in major coastal real estate markets like LA, Seattle, and New York City. And we even see those in Massachusetts. We got Hugh Nugent in the house. Welcome. Good to see you. Glad you could make it. It goes on to say that as high as that number is, Corcoran sees the current interest rates as an even bigger impediment to home buying. When host Neil Cavuto asked Corcoran to give her thoughts on the interest rate environment, Corcoran responded by saying, "Well, I think what we're losing right now is that we desperately need." What we need is more first-time home buyers. Less than 24% of people buying now are first-time buyers, which is an all-time low. She then addressed the question. She says that the rates have been bouncing around for a while between 6 and 7%. So people are confused. I don't think they're confused. I think they just don't, they can't afford it. They just can't afford it. They don't have big expectations. They're no longer waiting for tremendous rate drop. If that happens, it would be great for the market. But in the last year alone, we've sold 3.5% more houses despite what's going on with the interest rate. So what she's talking about there is that the unicorn or the phenomenon that we've seen over the last really the last 3 years is, typically when the interest rates go up, and we see things like the housing home values going up, and we see the overall affordability start to shrink. Generally speaking, we see home sales go down. That's typically what happens, but that has not been happening. And even when we saw it wasn't even the amount of increase with the interest rate going from 3% to 4% to quickly to 6 or 7%. It wasn't the actual increase in the rate. It was the speed that took everybody off guard. It was the fact that it jumped up very high, very quickly, and people didn't have a chance to react. One day because 1% on average, on a typical, home purchase, you're talking on a $100,000 house is going to affect you about $100 a month, typically on average. So it's, you look at the total cost over the course of 30 years on a 30-year mortgage, and incremental increases, that's enough to push people out of the market as it has done. But the fact that hasn't happened is a mystery. It's very, very, very interesting. She says that, however, Corcoran noted an ominous trend hiding beneath the rosy metric when she told Cavuto, but the first-time homebuyers aren't much of a piece of that increase in sales volume. Well, that we know because statistics are showing us that out of that 3.5% increase on the homes, that increase in home sales, to 25%, is first-time homebuyers have dropped. We've got 25% of first-time homebuyers. The rest of them are all cash buyers. A lot of them are, I shouldn't say, let me reframe that. A lot of it is because of cash buyers. Hugh says, eating and watching. Well, I'm very jealous of that. I've got my tea tonight, and I actually, my throat's, if I start to get a little hoarse, I apologize for that, guys. The heat, it's been cold here up in New England, and the heat, I think, is the heat's getting to my throat. Clark says it is so crazy that the sales prices are $1 million plus, and in some states there are first-time homebuyers buying in that price range. Yeah, I mean, that's, it is all relative in terms of what the, what their income is. I mean, it's not unusual to see some of these, first-time homebuyers in the coastal states that are coming out of college. They're getting, maybe they've been renting for a while, and they're making plenty of money. They're making, easy six figures to be able, well into six figures to be able, as a combined income, to be able to get into some of the stuff. And it's And the other thing too is that a lot of that first time home buyer generation, um, they're savers. Millennials are savers. So much more than say the Gen X were. So because of that, they're coming to the table with a much bigger down payments than say than my generation. That's for sure. Um, the article goes on to say that a recent report from the National Association of Realtors, can't mispronounce that word, revealed that the average American homebuyer is now 56 years old. Okay. The average homebuyer, and I've got an article about this actually, is 56 years old. The reason why the average homebuyer, not the average first time homebuyer, but the average homebuyer is because of the fact that the first time homebuyers are squeezed out. The first time homebuyers are squeezed out so that now we've got the late Gen X's, the early boomers that are not selling and buying. They're not selling and retiring into retirement homes or RVs or assisted living or whatnot. They're buying more homes. So those home buyers are the home buyers that they're talking about, and that's kind of proof positive of what kind of cements their stat. So it says that means that today's first time home buyer home buyers operate in a much less buyer friendly market than their parents or grandparents did. That's no big surprise. A recent survey by Clever Real Estate shows that half American homeowners over 56 plan to age in place and never sell their property, further clouding the picture of young buyers. I've got some information on that as well that I'm going to get into. Corcoran attributed the recent uptick in purchase activity to increased available inventory, and the fact that buyers are largely more accustomed to the new interest rates. Despite that, Corcoran believes that there could be a tidal wave of activity in the real estate market if the interest rates decrease further. Well, yes and no, because if the interest rates decrease further, well, actually, so she goes on to say, I'm wondering if we'll ever see 5% again, because anything with 5% in front of it will make this market go ballistic. Okay, I agree with her in that regard. I agree that a 5% interest rate would absolutely get people off the sofas and out in the market, particularly the folks that are sitting on the 2.5, 2.75, 3% interest rates. That would entice them. That gap would be small enough to get people to move. However, I don't see that happening. Not in the current economic climate that we're in. I don't see that interest rate going down to 5%. Because the other scenario is that, and the other conundrum is that if that happens, and like she's saying, is that if all of a sudden we see that influx of that interest rate go down, we see an influx of people getting off the sofa and getting into the market, more demand drives up prices. More demand, same inventory issues, more buyers for the same house. Now you got home values still continue to climb, which is not what we need. AP, welcome. They said, in my county in Colorado, Colorado's on my bucket list. Hope to make it there someday. The median sales price, holy cow, is $973,750 for a single family home. Meanwhile, the median household income sits at $73,000. Short-term rentals doesn't help with price affordability. Yeah, see, this is the price gap. This is the income gap that I talked about last week with the in last week's live stream. That the average home buyer right now needs $108,000 just to meet the current median entry level home of $425,000. It's just it's kind of bonkers. But the thing of it is depending on where you are in Colorado, I know that you guys see a lot of second, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of second home buyers, a lot of folks from more affluent areas of the country that are coming over to buy property in the mountains to get away. And I remember reading an article that during the pandemic, a lot of people flocked to those areas to get away, get out of the city, and whatnot. You missed tons, Nicole. You missed tons. That's okay. I'm glad you're here. Very, very glad you're here. Clark says that, yeah, it's true that the millennials are definitely saving. Um, this buyer put down 35% to buy a home I was helping sell. I was like, wow, it was about a $200,000 down payment. So here's the thing, Clark. A lot of, and I'm sure you're seeing this. It's a combination of things that are happening with these first time home buyers and these down payments. It's a combination of they are living at home. A lot of them are living at home, which means they're not necessarily renting. So they have all of that income coming in from their paying jobs that they got out of college, and they're able to bank some money. And there's a lot of parental help. And I actually, in one of my articles I'm going to touch on, it mentions that parents, grandparents are helping these millennials, this generation more than any other generations, because they have the means to do so. So that's, not to say that they didn't save hard and do it on their own and all the things, but that's something that is, something that we're seeing a lot of, is outside help with these first time home buyers. The article, just to wrap up this article, says, on the other side of the equation, Corcoran believes that that a return to 7% would have almost the opposite effect. It would slow down the whole market, would slow down the whole economy. It would slow down the support services for the housing market. It would be a terrible thing. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, from where I'm sitting, and being in Massachusetts, and also having the benefit of fielding all of those, you guys reach out, when you need a referral, when you contact me for a referral to an agent in my preferred network. Talk about that a lot on this channel, the 20% agent versus the 80% agent. And you guys reach out for, to have me refer you to a, 20% agent in my network. And somebody asked me, by the way, what is a 20% agent? Does that mean they get 20% commissions? No, no, a 20% agent. So an 80%, for those watching that haven't heard me talk about this on my content. So, I've been in this business for 28 years, and I have seen the business over the last 10 years change, and not for the better. And I am 100% transparent about my feelings on this channel, that I truly feel, this is based on my observations, my experiences, and conversations with agents all over the country, that 80% of the agents in the real estate industry are not worth half of what they're getting paid. They're not. They're not professional. They're not skilled. They're not dedicated to their craft, and a lot of it's nefarious. Yeah, it's they just, all they care about is themselves, and they are certainly not looking out for the client's best interest. However, they're just like any, the bad apples spoil the batch. There are good apples and there are good agents, and that's what I refer to as the 20% agent. It could even be 10%, to be perfectly honest. In my opinion, I think that the number of good agents is shrinking, unfortunately. But those agents are the agents that, they're not worried about the check. They want to do right by the people, because they know if they do right by their people, which is the way I've done my business my whole career, they do right by their people, the money will take care of itself. And you get up in the morning, you do the right thing, you help people, you work hard, you go that extra mile. When I am talking to these folks, when I'm talking to my referral partners across the country, they're all saying the same thing, that the market is already slow. So Barbara Corcoran's talking about a 7% interest rate would slow down the market. The market is already slow, just about everywhere. There are pockets, there are pockets where the market is humming, but it's not common. I mean, some of the agents that I talk to, that are normally extremely busy. I'm in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is typically we're usually more insulated from the market, and we're feeling it more than ever. Everyone I talk to, what they're seeing, their business is down, and that, and we're not even the interest rates right now are 6.5%, typically 6 and 6.7%. I think it was when I checked this morning. So the slowdown, Barbara, is already happening. Unfortunately, that guy, oh man, I love your handle. That guy says the problem is the first time homebuyer thinks they can buy a house in New York or LA. Sorry to bust your bubble, ain't gonna happen. Yeah, I think expectations is a big deal, is a big problem, is a big challenge. Um, and I think that I think society is. I'm not gonna say the society is to blame, but society is to blame. I think that as a whole, and it's not just first time homebuyers. It's we want what we want. We want it now. I have seen a 100% shift in first time homebuyers, and the first time homebuyer age actually is it was early 20s, mid 20s, and it is now in the 30s. So the expectation for a first time home buyer and what they want, especially after, like Clark, you said that you had a buyer, a millennial that had a $200,000 down payment. Well, if they're putting that kind of money down, their expectations are going to be different than, say, when I bought my first place and I was scrimping and scraping to get 3% down. It's entirely different now. And so, but no, I think that you're spot on. That guy. Uh, why? Thank you, Clark. Clark, the realtor. It's a shame to say, I agree with you, 100%. Let's see. Hugh says that it's slowed down here in Maryland. Most houses have price drops and stay longer than the first half of the year. Yeah, it is. You know what? There's so many predictions that at the beginning of the year that, well, from industry experts, economists that way smarter than I am. That's all they do. Crunch numbers. They look at data. And I have a few key people that I watch in the industry that historically get it. They're a little bit, conservative, not conservative politically, but conservative with the numbers, with the data. And they got it wrong. They got it wrong this year. They said that the second half of the year was going to be a busier year. There's going to be more inventory. We're going to see a little bit of a shift in interest rates going down. They did go down before the Fed cut the federal rate. And that was just the bond market reacting prematurely to what the Fed was going to do. So the mortgage rates reacted to the bond market, and they came down before the Fed adjusted their rate back in September. But then they bounced back up. And that didn't move the market. People didn't put their homes on the market. People didn't move, which didn't do anything for the market. So it's definitely been a slowdown. It is a big question mark on what's going to happen next year. In terms of the overall the overall outlook. Red says you are right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know what? Will you do me a favor and have a conversation with my kids, my adult children, which doesn't matter what their ages are. Yeah, yeah. Clark says, yeah, the first time homebuyer age is now 38. Yeah, I'm going to bring that, I'm going to bring that article up here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so this article, the publication's Bazinga. Isn't that from like third? What's the name of that show? The Big Bang Theory, right, or something? Bazinga? I don't know. Anyways, U.S. homebuyers are now 56 on average as younger generations struggle with wildly unaffordable market. Housing expert warns. It says that the average, a lot of this mirrors what I was just talking about. The average age of U.S. homebuyers climbed to 56, a sharp increase that underscores how much young Americans are struggling in today's housing market. High ownership costs, rising mortgage rates, so on and so forth, create steep hurdles for millennials and Gen Z. Can't forget about Gen Zs coming in right after the millennials. They're starting to be of home buying age. Are increasingly finding themselves in the sidelines of homeownership. The latest report shows that the average age has risen from 49 to 56. since July 2023. And then the situation is not easy. First-time homebuyers who face a median age of 38, up from 35. There you go, Clark. Up from 35, and a market share dipping from 32% to 24%. The lowest rate since NAR began tracking these statistics since 1981. This is the lowest number of first-time homebuyers. Let that sink in for a second, guys. The lowest number of first-time homebuyers in the market since 1981. This is the drop reflects a market less accessible to home prices, and mortgage rates continue to rise. This is there is no beating around the bush. This is a problem. This is a major problem. And I am very glass half full, optimistic, looking at the bright side of things. I'm a realist for sure, but this is a tough situation. AP says mortgage rates decrease may not be enough to bring the affordability back. No, it won't. Do we need a significant price correction on the scale of global financial crisis of 708 to bring us back to the affordability? Well, so here's the thing: would it decrease? We need an adjustment about 30% to get in line with current income standards. We need a price adjustment of about 30%. Which is about what the price, the GFC brought prices in certain areas, 35% in some areas is what the adjustment was back during that time period. So would that help? It would help bringing the prices down, but it would wreck the national economy because of the amount of gross domestic product, the GDP that housing controls. The housing market has the largest stance in effect on the overall U.S. economy. If the housing market crashes, we're going to be in a world. All the other industries that are associated with the housing market are going to be in a world of hurt. All the contractors, general contractors, plumbers, electricians, retail stores, big box stores. There's going to be a lot of people in the unemployment line. And so the global financial crisis, we do not want that. We do not want that. The implications on something like that is going to be far worse than just bringing the home prices down. But to answer your question, what we need, the opposite of pushing the prices down is pulling the prices down, I guess, which is or having a natural progression of the home prices falling, not having them crash. We need more product. I mean, for those that are on the live stream, you guys remember like the Cabbage Patch Kids back in the 80s? Remember the Beanie Babies, right? The reason why all those stupid crazes happened is because there was limited supply. It's the same thing. Now, because of technology, because of the way we are, because of advances in predicting what market, what Christmas rush is going to happen, what new toy is going to be the hot craze, and they can get enough of them, and just enough to create some urgency. But you can go on Amazon now. You couldn't do that back in the 80s. You can go on Amazon, you buy it a month ahead of time, put a pre-order in. It's no big deal. So now those prices don't get crazy. They don't, people aren't paying, $500 for a dumb Cabbage Patch Kid, but they'll pay crazy amounts for a house. As we sit right now, we have approximately a 4 million home shortage in new construction. We need about 4 million to get these prices back to where they are. We need about 4 million brand new homes, brand new home, not necessarily single family, just condos. Condos may be the answer. You can build a lot more condos for a lot less money than you can single family homes, put a lot more people in homes. And that's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen. And my prediction, you heard it here first, folks. My prediction for first-time home buyers is I think we're going to see a resurgence in condo living. We had a surge in condo living back in the 80s. A lot of condos were built, and then the condo market, because it was mismanaged, went by the wayside, and people started looking at condos as a bad investment because they were not built properly, had issues, and the management companies had issues, and all the things. People looked at condominiums as a bad investment. Well, that's changed. Things have changed. Regulations have changed so that condominiums, I think, might be a much more viable option and a much more affordable option for first-time home buyers. I mean, the reality of it is, if you had a first-time home buyer, you're sitting there renting a small apartment, and you can buy it for the same amount of money, and now you've got equity that you're building. Why wouldn't you do that? And you could afford to do it. In a condo, you're not buying land. So it's going to be, and I'm not talking about Florida. I'm not talking about any of the South Coast states that have crazy HOA fees. Okay, I'm talking about areas of the country that don't have the climate issues that cause those fees to go crazy, and there are other areas of the country where the median price is more realistic than coast to coast, East Coast, West Coast. So anyways, that's my TED Talk on that. Hugh says that indeed most predictions from insiders are wrong. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it depends on where they're getting their data. You can twist a lot of data a lot of different ways. As we all know, you can make, and this is the thing, and the real estate industry is no different. You can twist that data to meet your expectations very, very easily. But the folks that I follow are very neutral and are not buying and selling homes, and they don't have necessarily a stake in the game. All right. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, guys, I've got here in the Northeast. It's been chilly, seasonably chilly, and my throat's been a little bit dry with the heat coming on all the time, and so I'm drinking my tea tonight. Cindonia 31. Thanks for being here. Says, please don't wish 08 on anyone. Amen. So many families lost their homes, including me, and the investors just swoop in and buy them all for cash. First off, I'm super sorry to hear that. And you are not alone. And that's why I think that a crash scenario is not the answer, because of what you went through. Because of what you went through is the exact reason why it's much, much more catastrophic than just lowering prices. That's if that were the only impact, if that were the only casualty were home prices, then that'd be fine. But a housing crash that's not the only casualty, and again, if that crash were to happen, yes, people would be losing their homes. And why are they losing their homes? Because every industry that the housing industry touches will see job losses. And we don't want that. We don't want to go backwards. No. Dan in the dirt. Good to see you. 44 with my wife, 47, trying to buy our first home. Hey, you know what? You are not that far off. You're not that far off. And I would say don't be deterred. Don't be deterred, because here's the thing, my, a real good friend of mine, his parents, and this was a while back, this was probably, 15 or so years ago. His parents were lifelong renters, and they never bought a home. They just rented. It was just easier. They happened to know the landlord, and it was, cheap rent. They rented this house, and it worked until one day when the landlord sold the house to a developer, and they got a letter in the mail saying that they were going to demolish the house, and they were evicted. They were asked to leave because they were bulldozing it to build a 55 plus retirement community. And now they were, at an advanced age in their life, trying to find a rental. And not only were they trying to find a rental, but they were trying to find a rental at the different rental rates, because the landlord didn't increase the rent to market rates. And that to me is the reason why home ownership, um, it works. It insulates you. It insulates you from the what ifs. It's a predictable. Yes, it's hard, and yes, it's can pull your hair out and expensive and repairs and all the things. I got my electric bill. I'm like, what the heck's going on my electric bill? My electric bill, the rate, the kilowatt, because I'm a geek with this stuff, and I was looking at the data on trying to figure out why my electric bill's been increasing substantially over the last year, and my kilowatt rate went through the roof when it went from 20.224 to 26 to 0.34 per kilowatt hours. What the heck? So yeah, it's expensive. Pay your own electric bill and all that kind of thing, but I know that if I got in a situation where, God forbid, something were to happen to me, or sick, or if I passed away or whatever, my house would be sold and my kids would be taken care of because of the equity they've built from just paying down that mortgage. So don't give up. Don't give it up. That's my little inspirational talk for you, Dan. That you didn't know you need. So Hugh says, who do you follow? Okay, so I do follow uh, um, good grief, from National Association of Realtors. Um, I'm having a moment here, guys. Menopause is a Lawrence June. There we go. Menopause is a real thing. You guys don't have to worry about it. Us ladies, let me tell you something. It's criminal. When all of a sudden the words just disappear out of your head. Lawrence June from the National Association of Realtors, and a lot of folks would think, oh, the realtors, they're like, it's data that is skewed in their favor. But I've been following this guy for many, 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 many years, and the data. I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of the National Association of Realtors. I'm not, but they have access to a lot of data. And the more data you have access to, the higher probability that you are able to, extrapolate that data and find, good predictability. Another guy that I follow, to be honest, is a guy out of California called Brian Buffini. Brian Buffini he is one of the top. He's in the real estate coaching industry, but he does a lot of investments. He does a lot of investments, owns a lot of investment property, does a lot of talks, but he is a student of data. This guy knows, and I've been following him for, 16 years. This second half of the year, 2024, was the first time he didn't get it right. It was the first time. It was not a great year. AP says, unfortunately, institutional investors and even smaller investors purchasing short-term rental properties out-compete first-time and other prospective home buyers seeking primary residence. I 100% agree. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I think that there's got to be more regulations on institutional investors, there's no question. But, when you're talking the smaller investors, the mom and pops that are just making they're self-employed, they're making a business, it's an unfortunate thing because of the fact that those smaller investors, they have deeper pockets. And it's a tough situation that I do agree with you. Oh, Sinister Spatula, you're like one of my favorite handles ever. It's not insulated from property taxes. Oh, yep, you are correct. And you know what? That is becoming a major issue. It's just putting fuel on the fire of the economy, the economic situation of this country right now. Is people are absolutely starting to feel the waves from the market, the housing market explosion from 2021, 2020, 21, 22, and those ripple effects, because every county reassesses differently. Some, it's a year, 2 years. Some counties assess the same time you purchase. You purchase a property for $450, your tax bill's gonna be based on $450. But for example, here where I'm at, Plymouth, Massachusetts, it doesn't happen that way. It could be, a year, year and a half before, I see a reassessment of now the property's not 350, it's gone up to 400 or 450, and now you've got that incremental increases. So as those properties increase, those home values are going to increase. The tax values are increasing, and yeah, it's a tough situation. The big difference is going to be what the relationship between renting. One of the compounding issues will be the relationship between renting and a mortgage. And it used to be that a mortgage, paying your mortgage, property, interest, taxes, and insurance, was less expensive than renting. But that has evened out as the rental market has cooled down. It's becoming less expensive to rent. A lot of people are actually going that route, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the new administration coming in after in January, to see if anything changes in regards to that on new rental properties opening up and whatnot. Dan says that credit building has been hard for me. My wife had one overdue payment for an extra class she had to take to graduate. We had no idea we owed the bill. It was being sent to our temporary school. Email, they said they did. Yeah, you know what? So let me. I feel okay. When it comes to school debt, you be persistent. You got to be tenacious with these people. I'll tell you a quick story. So my daughter was in college, and I'm helping her out with the student loans while she was in college. We had one loan that required payments with no deferment, and I'm like type A with my bills. I got burned and tough. I got swept up in the great financial crisis myself. My husband at the time and I, we got into trouble, and I have PTSD with just debt and everything else. So everything gets paid. Well, I lost track of that 1 month paying that student loan bill, and I was 2 days late. And it wasn't it was more than that. It was 50. I think it was more than 2 days. It was like a week or something like that. In any event, I made the payment, but they had already sent it to the credit agencies. They had already sent it to the credit agencies, and I couldn't believe it. I will tell you, I wrote letters to the lender, to the student loan company. I wrote letters and asked for forgiveness, asked them to retract, asked them, and it took me months, but it worked. You just got to be tenacious, not fighting, but just kind of, hey, this is my situation, and my credit score is great, and yada yada, and this is whatever happened in our at the time, whatnot. Plead to them, and I got it done. So yeah, the biggest thing that I think people make, the biggest mistake, not to go down a financial rabbit hole here, but I think a lot of people make the mistake of not acknowledging or not, just you get the mistake, you're late or whatnot, and then it is what it is. It's like, no, fight it. Fight it. Try to turn it around. So I wanted to, before we get too deep in other stuff here, I got my checklist here. One of the things that I mentioned earlier, that if during the week, if you guys have a question, I have a hotline. And call, leave your name, where you're calling from, and leave your question, and then I will feature your question as you're going to see in a second live on the following live stream. So I'm going to play a question that came in by an awesome viewer who actually has left questions in the past, so I super appreciate that. So let's get on to this question.
Hi, Jen. My name is Nicole, and I called you once before. I live in Edina, Minnesota. And my new question is, I'm looking at a piece of land that is actually in a different state. And if I do decide to buy it sight unseen, do you have to go to that state to sign all the closing papers? And how does that work if you're not actually in the same state as the land you want to buy? I'll be listening every week till I hear the answer to the question. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, cool. Nicole Olson, is that you? I'm hoping so. So if it is, thank you so much for calling that in. So, okay, this kind of stuff happens all the time with people buying, property out of state. And, you know, do you have to be in the state? No, you do not. You absolutely do not. What you'll need is to find out from that state what their closing requirements are. Some states use closing attorneys. Some states use title attorneys or title companies to handle the closing. You'll need to reach out to them to find out what their requirements. Typically, what will happen is there will be documents that you're going to have to sign. As far sign in person original signatures in front of a notary. A lot of companies, a lot of companies don't, especially when you're purchasing, a lot of lenders are actually starting to adopt, and this is why you got to reach out to the who's handling the closing in that particular state, because a lot of lenders are adopting digital electronic closings, where you literally can go online. They'll say, okay, electronically sign all of these documents, and then there's just a couple that need your original signature. And if you can't be physically in that office to sign that paperwork, then the title company or the attorney will either overnight the paperwork to you or email it to you to print out, and then it's just a matter of you finding a notary to sign in front of, and then overnighting the originals back to that person. So, it does require a little bit of coordination for sure. Depending on what the situation is, if you are buying a piece of property, you're dealing directly with the owner, or it's a private deal or something of that nature. That's one thing. But if you're dealing with the best case scenario is if you're buying it through, say, if it's a publicly listed piece of property through a listing agent, okay. First off, do not go to the listing agent directly. Okay, let me rephrase that. You can go to the listing agent, just be very careful. Be very, very careful that you don't unknowingly sign their disclosure saying that you are signing up for dual agency. Did a video about this. It's kind of a sneaky way for the listing agent to basically charge the seller twice for the commission, both sides, that saying that they're representing you as a buyer agent, which I don't believe should be legal. But best case scenario, you'd have a good buyer's agent to represent you, to help you on the other end, right? And then that buyer's agent will help coordinate. Because I do that all the time. All the time, we have folks, on the West Coast that are buying property that they're going to be here 6 months out of the year on the East Coast, and that's part of what I do when I have incoming buyers, is handle some of that paperwork transfer, make sure the babysitting and the following up, because they're not physically here. So I'll do a lot of that coordinating. I'm the boots on the ground, and I will make sure that ends meet. If paperwork needs to be picked up and mailed or whatever. But I hope that answers your question. 100%. Oh yes, it is Unicorn. This is you are such a big help. I'm here to help. I'm here to help educate you guys so you can advocate for yourself. My sister happens to be a notary. All right, sweet. So that may come in handy. And I did watch your dual agency videos, so I knew I would never do that. Let's go. Let's see if I can actually find my. Here we go. Got the chewing going on here. Fantastic. Fantastic. My goal, guys, honest, and this is no joke. My goal is to put one 80% agent out of business one at a time. I'm trying to do a purge because I'm just so sick and tired of consumers getting taken advantage of and not even realizing it. And it just makes me ill. It does. It makes me ill. So very cool, Nicole. Thank you so much for calling that in. I love geeking out on the animated questions side, and I love having you guys participate in this stuff. Let me just check the comments real quick. Let's see here. Maddie B says, following Housing Wire. That's another good. And Altos. Yeah, Altos is really good, actually. Yes, they're data analysts. So Altos, for those watching, if you want to get, they do a weekly YouTube video, where they go. It's. I'll be honest, it's very dry. It's very dry to watch and listen to, but it's data. It's data. And I think it's, you just I think you just Google Altos, I think is the name of the YouTube channel. But yeah, those are really good. 110%. Let's see here. Yeah, hugs and kisses. Hey, welcome back. The digital process has gotten better. No longer need to go to notary. Many are notary. So what's interesting is that that changed big time during the pandemic. Big time. Massachusetts, bunch of old Yankees up here. They are very slow to change. Very, very, very slow to change. And we were like one more signature away from getting that approved. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So, there's the lenders have gotten better with getting more paperwork signed ahead of time. Some of the stuff that's the disclosure part of the process that doesn't absolutely need to be signed at the closing. So that's good. But, the critical paperwork, is they want you to be there, notarized and all the things. Could an 80% agent walk the property and find out about wells and septics? So here's what I would caution you on. And this is just something to be very aware of. So an 80% agent, they are all about just getting the deal done, right? Their skill level in knowing what to ask, how to get the information, where to find the information, how to follow clues sometimes, because sometimes you'll be investigating something and you'll see something that you weren't expecting. I would not trust them to do that. That's my own opinion. I have seen more times than I can count agents that are lazy, and if it means that if it means not disclosing this information, or even not even checking this information because it gets you closer to the closing table, I've seen it happen. But the other thing too is I have seen agents that I just scratch my head and I go, how do you not know that you should check to make sure that the property is actually serviced by town water and not a well? They just don't know, and they don't want to know, and because they don't care. They just don't care. So I guess the short answer to your question is I wouldn't. I would say no. Let's see here. Great question, though. Dan says that I've been so sick with stress, hoping that they keep their promise and take that offer credit. She didn't get it in writing, so just verbally said they would. So here's just like a side note on that, because I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, especially if you work so hard to build your credit. Stuff happens, right? Stuff that's out of our control happens. At the end of the day, what we're talking about here is not life or death. We're talking credit scores, housing, and the like, right? It is super important. I am not downplaying the importance of this, but it's not worth your health. It's not worth your health. All you can do is the best you can do. That's what I try to tell my kids. That's what I tell myself is, in this world, and trust me, I deal with anxiety and providing for my kids, and they're, worrying about them surviving in this world that we've got right now. So I get it, but I would say, Dan, do the best you can do, and then let it go, and whatever happens happens, and you get to deal with the fallout of that, and move on, and move on. That's all you can do. It's I was talking to a good friend this morning, and talking about worry, and how worry is wasted energy. Not to go all Oprah on you guys, and this is a housing market live stream, but there's a lot of worry in this economy, in this climate, and truly, the amount of energy that it takes spent on worrying is energy taken away from focusing on the things that you can actually control. Things that you can actually control. You know, stress is not, it's not up all in here. It affects everything. It's bonkers. Are are all foundation issues an immediate runaway from the deal, or can they be solved within reason? Reason sometimes. You know what? I'm gonna say that no, not all foundation issues are immediate runaway. I'm not, and I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of advancements in remediation for depending on what it is. Depending on what it is. Um, you know, Here in this part of the country, we have a lot of old homes. And some of these homes have fieldstone foundations. And some of them, honest to God, have their support beams, their main support beams are made out of wood. And during that era, during the 1900s, 1800s, they had post beetle infestation issues. And if you had post beetle damage, that's the same as rot. So what do? You got to replace it. So do you run away, or is it something that you can have a structural engineer come out and say, okay, some, concrete filled lolly columns will absolutely remedy the situation. Great. I would say that if the house as a whole is worthwhile investigating the issue, then do it. I would absolutely have a structural engineer come out. It'll cost you money. It's going to cost you money to have that done, but have the structural engineer come out. Whatever the foundation issue. Maybe if the foundation issue is a water issue, you want to get at least 3 estimates from foundation, water foundation remediation companies. In other words, companies that specialize in fixing the cracks. And I've seen that plenty where a foundation will crack, but you want to make sure you get multiple estimates from reputable companies, not just companies that are going to put some cement filler in there and call it a day. But you do want to investigate that. And then depending on it's all about what's it's your level of risk tolerance. It's your level of risk tolerance. If you're rubbing nickels together and you don't have the ability to roll with it if things went sideways, then no, you probably shouldn't get involved with it. But if it's a really good deal on the house, or a fair deal, and the rest of the house is, the location's great and the floor plan's great and the rest of the house is in great condition, and it's got this one wart, that could be remediated, and the seller's willing to foot the bill, I think it's worth investigating. My grandparents were diehard Yankees fans, and I have some that in me. So yes, I'm Boston Red Sox here. In this part of the country, I'll be honest, I don't like, I don't really care. I used to watch I used to be a diehard Patriots fan, diehard. Back, if anybody used to watch the Patriots back when Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback, and then this young whippersnapper came in when Drew got hurt, Mr. Tom Brady, and watched them have some great success, and then things have just changed. in the sports area. So you know what, I don't that whole rivalry, Boston and Red Sox and Yankees. Yeah, I don't. It's it's all good. Can I have a 20% agent and take a look at the land and take some pictures? Absolutely. I have a feeling that part of the land has garbage on it and I need to clean up. 110%. That's what we do. That is what we do. So a 20% agent, not only are they going to take a look at the land, get some pictures, but they're going to help you research that land, and help you, give you some guidance on, does it, what's the topography? Is it wet? Are there, what is the, utility situation in the area? Are there any red flags? What's around the land? What's on all four sides? Is there anything that's in the near vicinity that might affect the overall value? So that's what a good real estate agent is supposed to do. That's what so 110%. And if you need that agent, Nicole, just, the link is, you probably know this, but the link is in the description that I can get you connected to one of my folks if you need that referral. You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome for the advice. 100%. Glad you're here. Let's see here. See, house I lived in, Sidonia says the house I lived in, built in the late 1800s, slightly slanty. Yes, you're going to get that in the 1800s. Goes with the territory, but the foundation was totally fine. Yeah, so here's the thing. You bring up a great point. If you have an older home, you need to get a home inspector that specializes in older homes. If you bring in a typical run-of-the-mill home inspector, they're going to look at that house that's on a fieldstone foundation, that's on a concrete block foundation, that's a little bit older, but hasn't moved at all in 100 years. They're going to look at it and they're going to oh, you should never buy this, and this is bad news, and all the things. When it's totally false. It's totally false. If it hasn't moved in 100 years, unless you live in like an earthquake zone or something of that nature, you're probably in really good shape. I've seen, we've got a lot of chimneys in our area, in this part of the country, and on the older homes, sometimes these chimneys separate from the house. And, the thing that we look at is what has happened over the last 20 years, 30 years. Sometimes they settle after the house is built and then they don't move at all. That happened in my house, and the owners before us had put, they had a piece of molding put on and all the things. I've been in my house 24 years. Nothing's changed. And I do watch my own house. I watch that stuff. So you just got to, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to, let's see here. Yes, awesome. I'm definitely go with the referral. I just have to get my agree on which block. Yes, whenever, whatever I can do to help. 100%. Let's see. Hugs and Kisses says Southbridge and helped with Sturbridge Village. Oh, I love Sturbridge Village. That's in Western Mass. For those that don't know what Sturbridge Village is, it's like an old colonial era village where it was like you could go and they have churning butter and all the cool stuff, and you can buy those little sleeves of honey and all that kind of stuff. It was just cool. I remember going there as a kid. Do they have to disclose if farm animals are buried on the property? Depends on the state, but not in Massachusetts. Not if farm animals. No, not if farm animals. So, Jackie Baker and I do a fun podcast. I think I've mentioned it on this live stream a couple times. We do a podcast, the Reddit Real Estate Disasters podcast. It's just a fun project that we've got a little sidetrack. Both of us have been super busy. Time of the year, end of the year, wrap up on things, and we haven't recorded in several weeks, unfortunately. We're definitely, for those listening that listen to the podcast, we haven't forgotten about it, but we're getting back to it. But we did the whole thing with the podcast slash YouTube channel, because we recorded on the videos on the YouTube as well. Is she finds these crazy stories on Reddit, and then reads them, and I don't know about them before we start recording. So she reads them to me live, and then we dissect and we just talk about it candidly, and we have a good time. She had a story um, recently about this home buyer posting the story on Reddit. This home buyer that bought this home that had a lot of bushes and whatnot, and a lot of unkept areas in the backyard. She went in the backyard one day, pulled aside some bushes, and found a headstone. Several headstones. So could check your property perimeter before you buy a house. But um, depending on where you live, that's a thing. People burying their loved ones. If you have a big plot of land, burying them up on the hill. You should disclose it, but I guess it depends on the county and the state whether you are required. That's not an automatic required situation. It's something I would want to know, though, for human bodies. Animals, not so much. Not so much. Let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah, Yankee Candles across the street. Yep. Yankee Candles, another site out Western Mass. Okay, I have a couple questions that I wanted to actually just see here if there was anything else that I wanted to get to on my stuff. I think I wanted to get to just these questions. Oh, before I get on, any further. So I had teased the beginning of the live stream about something that I wanted, a little announcement that I wanted to make. And so mark your calendar. So coming up December 23rd at 7 p.m. I've had Jackie Baker on this live stream several times. I've been on Jackie Baker's live stream several times. We are very, 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 very good friends and whatnot. And we are doing a Christmas special on December 23rd. We will be having giveaways and trivia, and it's going to be a good time. We may or may not talk about housing market. Probably not. It's going to be a fun night. 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd at 7 p.m. We're gonna broadcast it on the live stream, both her channel, my channel, at the same time. So stay tuned. Mark your calendar if you're available to jump on that. You might win some free stuff, and we're getting some trivia questions that are they are not going to be boring trivia questions like how much is the housing market appreciated. Boring. We're not doing that. No, heck no. 100%. I had a couple questions that I wanted to get to that came in. Excuse me for my cough. That came in last week, and let's see if I can pull this up here. Dun, 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 dun. So this question came in after the live stream last week. It says, what are your thoughts and advice on assumable loans with lower interest rates and having to cover the difference in cash? So I actually did a live stream, come to think, actually, coincidentally, with Jackie Baker several months ago. And we talked about assumable loans. Hugs and Kisses just said Eastern time. Yes. December 23rd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on December 23rd. So, assumable loans, for those that don't know what assumable loans are, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's if a homeowner has a mortgage and the mortgage has a clause in it that says it can be assumed. So there are a lot of loans out there that have that clause built into it. And, that basically says if somebody wants to take over this mortgage at the given rate, it doesn't matter, or whatever the outstanding balance is, they would take over. They would still have to qualify for the loan. You can't just take the name off, put the name on. You still have to qualify as a new borrower. But if it's a $100,000 loan at 2.75% interest rate and it's assumable loan, you will benefit from that 2.75% interest rate for the remainder amount of time on that note. So it doesn't start 30 years from day one. You're literally taking over the loan. Now, I do have a link in the description. There's a company, and it is an affiliate link. They sent me like 25 cents or something. I don't even know, but it was more important for me to get, make it available to you guys. And it's called assumelist.com. They will actually provide some information on different properties that have assumable mortgages, but it's not an extensive list. And you do have to do some digging to figure out which loans on properties have assumables. Oftentimes it requires you to call the listing agent so they can just ask the seller. It takes a little bit of digging, it's a little bit of work, but you could save a ton of money. Now, but the question that came in about, the assumable loans with the lower interest rates and having to cover the difference, what they're talking about there is if you have, say you're trying to buy a $500,000 house and they have a $250,000 assumable loan. Well, you don't have $250,000 to make up the difference in cash. If you do, you certainly can do that. Pay cash for the difference and then take over the loan. I think if you qualify for the loan, depending on what the loan, parameters, the specifications are, you got to, scrutinize and look at everything on that loan before you take it on, of course. But I think can be a tremendous savings because you're going to get the benefit of that low interest rate that you're not going to get ever, in our lifetime, more than likely. However, what do you do if you don't have $250,000? Well, then you need to take a second mortgage. You take a second mortgage. There are companies out there that will give you gap mortgages. So if you have a $500,000 house and a $250,000 mortgage, and say you have $50,000 down payment, and so you need another $200,000, well, then you would get a $200,000 gap mortgage. And those rates will vary. They'll be more current with whatever the rate is. But even if the rate was at the current rate, say it's 7%, even if it was 7.5%, you're still saving, depending on the size of that assumable loan, you could still be saving a lot of dough on that assumable mortgage at that lower rate. So if the stars aligned and the opportunity presented itself, 100% I'd take advantage of it. The challenge is it's not easy. Is a ton, it's like, oh, this sounds great, Jen, but what are the drawbacks? Well, there's a ton of paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of hoops. You can be very, very, very patient as you go through that process. But to even get to that process, finding the assumable loans is not easy. It is not easy. There are companies like AssumeList that will kind of help that a little bit, but they don't know every single note and they don't have every single mortgage. And you may have 30 properties on the market and maybe, 29 of them are not assumable mortgages because not all are. So it's like, threading a needle. But if you can, it's a good deal. Yeah. So, Sinister Spatula. Yes. So go on that assumelist.com, but you can also, that AssumeList is a paid service. Okay. Just to let you know, it's full disclosure. I'm not even sure what they charge for their fees. And you can just, honestly, some stuff like that. I usually sign up for like a month and then cancel right away. Use it and then, or whatever, or even just take advantage of the free trial. If they, depending on if they have the free trial or not. But the other option is you get on the phone and if you've got a good buyer agent who's willing to roll their sleeves up and just start calling agents, the note information, so the registry of deeds information on, and I can't speak for every county in the country. I can't. But I know here in Massachusetts, access to the registry of deeds is public information. The note on their mortgage is public information. So I can go online and see the terms of the note online. That might be one. It's definitely more labor intensive, but is it a Strategy, 100%. 100%, 100%. Um, yes. Hugs and Kisses says, look out for bank liens. Yep. And that's the thing is that, one of the things that your closing attorney or your title company should do is make sure that is free and clear. Make sure that title to that deed to that property is, before you sign on the dotted line. You want to make sure that everything is accounted for. 110%. Make sure that what I mean is that there are no other bank liens or mechanics liens, which are like contractors that haven't been paid, things of that nature. Yeah, because you don't want to inherit somebody else's problems. Let's see here. Shannon asked, Shannon, welcome to the live stream. I've noticed a lot of older homes with HOAs in my market. That seems random, meaning that they don't have amenities like clubhouse, pool. Do you know why there are HOAs on those properties? That's interesting. So the only thing I can think of is that, all right, in our market, we have older communities, established communities that set up neighborhood associations. Okay, they set up after the fact. Those are not considered HOA fees. Those are neighborhood associations. Those are voluntary associations, because when you buy that property, when you sign that deed, there is also a condominium or an HOA rider that says that you are purchasing this property and you are willingly agreeing to enter into the obligation of the HOA. The HOA can foreclose on your house. They can absolutely foreclose on their house as a required HOA. To do that after the fact is really, really hard. You would need to get authorization and sign off from every single owner in the community to do that. So instead, what happens is a lot of these communities say, you know what, we're going to put together, and maybe there is a playground that needs some help. Or maybe the town is no longer taking care of the sidewalks. Or they're going to do block parties, once a year or something of that nature. And they say, you know what, you can join this HOA for, $100 a year, $50 a month, whatever it is, low amount. But they're voluntary. You do not have to pay them on those particular situations if it's an HOA that's formed after the fact. That sounds like what that is. That's exactly what that sounds like, what that is. Because, there are some HOAs on newer communities that don't have amenities. And they're creating an HOA because the town is requiring them. In order to get their building approval, their site approval, the town says, we're not going to take care of XYZ. We don't want to take on the responsibility, the added cost of the infrastructure, maintaining that infrastructure, because our town cannot afford to add more streets to plow or maintain or pave or whatever. So, Mr. Builder, if you want to build that, we will give you stamp of approval on your planning project if you create a HOA and the homeowners cover the cost. And that's why we've seen so many HOAs across the country, particularly on new construction. So I hope that follow up. Just to clarify, I'm in Arizona where the houses have desert landscaping, which is low maintenance. So I don't think $330 in HOA fees justifies the cost. Yeah, that's weird. And if it's, that's a lot. That's a lot for no amenities. What does that, I would question on a balance sheet, where's that money going? What's it for? Justify. Tell me what that money is being used for, because that doesn't make any sense. 110%. So you betcha. That is what I'm here for. So guys, I think, let me just go by my checklist. I feel like Jimmy Fallon with the checklist here. So once again, if you guys have questions during the week, call the number, the 50, there we go, the 508 number. Leave your name, where you're calling from. Leave your question. I'll put you on the live stream like I did with Nicole. That ton of fun. You can always, send it via the link in the description. There's a link you can that says, ask a question or whatnot. You can click on that and email it to me if you prefer. You don't want to leave it on your voice, having your voice featured on the live stream. That's fine. And then mark your calendar for the December 23rd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Christmas special, which will be tons of fun. Tons of fun. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. Hey, thanks so much for joining me. Everybody's getting their holiday shopping squared away. I haven't. It is what it is. But hey, guys, thank you for all you guys in the chat, and for all you, all you that are out there watching and voicing your comments and your questions and whatnot. Really, really, really means a lot to me. And hey, I want to wish you guys a very happy holiday season. Don't overspend. The amount that you spend on your Christmas expenditures is not a direct reflection of your love of each other. Have a wonderful week. Be good, and take care. Do something nice for someone this week, and we'll see you next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good to see all you guys. We will see you soon.